Hello, Power Up Nation. I am Pat Council, and I'm super excited. We're in the month of February, and for those of you that don't know, February is one of my favorite months of all times. And why is that? Number one, my birthday is in February. I was born in this glorious cold month, born in Philadelphia, and it was lots of snow. But I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, where it is just cold and there is no snow. So super excited, super grateful. The other thing I love about February is Valentine's Day. How exciting. Now, I know some of you that are listening to this are thinking that Valentine's Day is all about commercialism, selling the candy, the flowers, and spending lots of money. Yes, it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. That is super exciting as well. Why? Because we're in the good old US of A, and we're in a capitalist society. It's who we are. And you know what? While people complain about the wealth, the one thing I have to say is they couldn't get wealthy if we weren't buying their stuff. But some of the stuff is just good because I love candy. Now, I can't eat it the way I'd love to. I've never been able to eat as much as I would love to eat. Candy with almonds, candy with walnuts, that kind of thing. But let's press on. Today, I want to talk about getting beyond the fear of following your purpose. Now, the other reason why I love February is because of Valentine's Day represents the idea of a kind of romantic love. But what I normally do in February is I talk about the concept of love across the board. And this is one of the things that I wanted to start off with this month because there's so many people that talk about the fact that they know they have a purpose. They know they're here for a reason. They know what they're called to do. Or there are things that they desire to do and they're not doing those things. They start out and they fizzle out or they never get started. And it just stays, let's say what we call thoughts that bring on a kind of quiet desperation. In other words, you desperately wish you had the power or the courage to step out there and do what you've been called to do. So that's why I wanted to talk about this, because this is the month where we talk about love, love, love. Can you guys get excited about that? Now, another thing I want to say before we really get into this, getting beyond the fear of following your purpose, there's a reason why I like talking about love during February, and I periodically mention it throughout the year. And there are a few reasons, but one of the reasons is when you look at television and you look at all the different shows, and as a matter of fact, that's what I did a couple of days ago. So I was kind of scrolling or checking all the different shows on the different streaming apps and the movies and things. And I like funny movies. And yes, I do like romantic comedies, but also I just like movies that are flat out funny. Not sarcastic, rude, oh, let me swear every other second funny. Because actually I don't think it's funny, but some people do, teach his own. But I like funny movies, but I also like romantic movies. But I noticed that around Valentine's Day or in the month of February, they usually release some new movie or they highlight several movies. And these movies are all scary movies. They're horror flicks. And I think it's to downplay the idea of love, the concept of love, and to amplify not just the idea of horror, but to amplify the fear in a person. So people watch this and it gives you a kind of sensationalism. But then they go, oh, you know what? I was afraid for a week after I watched that movie. I was afraid for months. Well, I've shared this on the podcast before, and I'm going to share it quickly again. One of the scariest movies I've ever watched, I think it's called Seven. And Brad Pitt was in that movie, and I think Morgan Freeman was in it as well. And I watched it with a friend of mine, and this was years ago, probably more than 20 years ago. And I watched it with a friend of mine, and we were sitting there watching the movie. I let them talk me into watching the movie, and I thought, okay, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, it can't be that bad. How bad could it be? This is by far one of the scariest movies I've ever watched in my entire life. Now, I've watched some of Stephen King's movies. There's one that was called Christine. It was about a car, and the car was evil. So, okay, that's what I call scary light. And I can't think of the other one, but there was another one with by Stephen King, and there was a message in each movie. There was a moral to the story, and so they were what I call, again, scary light. But I don't even watch those anymore, even though they were slightly entertaining. And I've never watched Cujo. Because I just heard it's just about this really evil dog. So I'm like, yeah, I don't need to watch that. But the point that I'm getting to here is that around Valentine's Day, or in the month of February, a lot of movies come out. And this also happens around Christmas time too. But we haven't gotten there yet. We've already passed that. We're now in the month of February. And so one of the things that I notice is that every streaming app, all of these horror flicks that they are highlighting, and even the ones that even address Valentine's Day, these are horror flicks too. Somebody's getting stabbed, killed, shot, stab, stab, stab. Okay, so it does, if you watch a lot of this, the sensationalism of it at some point goes away. In other words, you become so desensitized to the whole killing, murder thing. And people actually start to, those people that watch this continuously, they either say, well, I know it's not real blood, but here's the thing, your brain does not know it's not real blood. Your brain sees blood, someone being stabbed, someone being killed, and so it sees that. And as a result, you can see this is what we have today, without me, becoming too political, I guess. And this is not about blaming politicians, but you can see it today. People don't have that kind of compassion when it comes to killing and stabbing and that kind of thing. So with that being said, what does that do when we feed our fear? When we feed our fear, it doesn't just affect us in one area. Like, for example, I'm not exactly a fan of heights. Now, I don't watch, as I said, horror flicks because I don't want to feed my fear. However, because I know I'm not a fan of heights, I prefer to feed love and feed safety and feed the concept that I'm going to be okay and that there's nothing wrong with this. That it's beautiful to be able to look off a balcony and look out and see the water. As a result of me kind of, let's say, romanticizing that, I can do that now. Because before I wouldn't do it. Funny, I would like the rooms on the top floors, but I would open like the sliding glass door, but I wouldn't go out on the balcony. Okay, so I would like sit in the room and look out at the water. But now I will actually go out on the balcony. I'll sit there, I'll relax and, grab a bite to eat, sit and eat lunch or whatever. So the point that I'm making is I decided that, I'm not going to feed my fear. Okay. This is what happens when we fail to follow through on our purpose. And one of the best ways to get beyond the fear of following through on your purpose or following your purpose is for you to feed the excitement of it all. Feed the purpose by seeing that you are here to serve a purpose, if that makes sense, that you have a calling and that you have within you what you need to get started. Does that mean that you're going to know everything from beginning to end? No, it doesn't mean that. I wish it did. That would mean I would never have made any mistakes in any of the businesses that I've been in. And that's just not true. That I made mistakes. But I learned a lot, okay? And so the thing about that is we feed the part of, or the fear that says, even though this is your calling, it doesn't make sense for you to do this because you're not going to make money. Even though you are in, this is something that you're really excited about doing, you don't know anything about this. So why are you going there? You have a good job, or, things are good for you right now. Why do you want to upset things? Because you're not happy. You're not happy, and there's something that's tugging at you and that's pulling at your heart and saying, you know what? This is your destiny or part of your destiny. This is the direction you should go in so that things can be better. Do you know how many people are not saying what they think and feel about different things that are going on, other than the people who really want to say something negative And I'm talking about things that are going on in our country, and we're not going to get into that either, but it's a good example. The negative people have no problem screaming to the top of their lungs. And a few of the people who can see a different perspective that makes sense will say something, but there are lots of other people who see things that make sense, that could make things better, but they're saying nothing because they're afraid. They're afraid of what people are going to think about them. They're afraid of what people are going to say to them. They're afraid that they're going to no longer be a part of the group that they're in. Okay. So they bought into what I call the negative group thinking. Here's the thing. If you want to get beyond the fear of following your purpose, you have to muster up the courage to say, you know what? It's okay if I lose a friend. And if you lose them, they probably weren't friends to begin with. You were probably in what I call a control group. And when I say control group, I mean everybody was controlling the behavior of everyone else. That's not living. That's not life. There's no freedom in that. Having someone say, you know, unless you're like the rest of the class, then you're going to be ostracized, or, you know, we're kicking you out of the group, or we're going to ignore you. And so here's the thing about that. If that group kicks you out, you will find a group that will let you in, and it will be the group that you're supposed to be with. So when it comes to getting beyond the fear of following your purpose, you have to make some decisions. You have to decide, who am I serving? Okay. Who am I obedient to? Am I obedient to these human beings who are talking me out of living the life that I desire to live? Okay. Or am I being obedient to these people who think they know better what my life should look like, or what my life should be like, and how I should serve, when in fact they did not give me my gift or talent? God has given each and every person a gift or talent. And I can assure you, those gifts and talents aren't to be used for you to be what I call someone else's lackey, if you will. And you're absolutely miserable. Now, here's my caveat. Sometimes when you step out to follow your purpose, that does not mean it's going to be all bells and whistles and all, you know, roses and smell good. Doesn't mean that. You are going to have some challenges. When we do something that we've never done, a lot of times we might end up with those challenges. Why? Because the ego that convinced us not to step out and be who God made us to be, well, that ego is going to say, you know what, you need to get back in your box because this is where you belong. I've met people like that, and I can tell you those people aren't happy. I've heard people say that, oh, I love this job. I love it. And then they forget that they said that. And then the next time I see them, they're complaining about the job and the people that they work with. And as a matter of fact, this recently happened. And I cut that person off and I said, you said you loved your job before. So if you love it, then love it. And the complaint thing, I don't know if that's the best conversation for us to have. Well, they got upset with me. And what they said was, you know what? Sometimes it's good to just listen. But here's the thing. I'm not going to listen to someone else's negativity because they're afraid to operate within their calling. Listen, if you are afraid to follow through on your calling, it's because you haven't figured out how amazing you are. You haven't figured out that you're built by design to win. And if you haven't embraced that idea, you have not yet understood that you have to fall in love with this amazing gift, this amazing talent, this amazing purpose that you've been given. And I mean, it's almost like you have to romanticize it, not to everyone else, but to yourself. You have to remind yourself that, wow, I am really good at this. But you can also remind yourself, you know what? There's so much more for me to learn. And I'm so excited to learn this. See, this is what will move you forward. But worrying about what someone else thinks of you, worrying about how you look, worrying about if someone won't like what you have to say, these things won't take you where you want to go in life. Okay, well, they'll take you someplace, but not where you want to go. You'll be among the crowd that's easily swayed. You'll be among the crowd that will follow someone because the rest of the class is following them, or because it appears to be the easiest route. So in order to get beyond the fear of following your purpose, yeah, you have to fall in love with you. You have to be excited about you. You will have to be so excited when you wake up in the morning, like, oh my goodness, I've been given this amazing gift. I've been blessed with this great gift by God, and I have this great calling on my life. And what I mean when I say great, it's not about necessarily the size of the calling. If you're going to be in front of millions and millions of people, it's not necessarily about that. It is about the fact that you have been entrusted with this great calling, this great purpose that you have to carry out, because that purpose will take you not just where you want to go, but will put you in let's say, in an area of life where you will find yourself helping so many other people, and everybody starts to grow. You're giving other people the courage to step out and be who they desire to be, because you have embraced you. See, when we embrace ourselves, that means we love ourselves. And that's not a narcissistic thing. As a matter of fact, narcissists have low self-esteem, a little bit on the side of, well, let's just say sociopath and pathic tendencies. And I'm not going to, go down that list, but they have relationships problems. They have a difficult time establishing a connection. And that's because they haven't yet learned to love themselves. People think that the narcissist loves themselves because they talk about how great they are, how capable they are, but they're doing it to everyone else. So what they're doing is trying to convince themselves that they are in fact that. So when I'm talking about you loving yourself, what I'm talking about is you not downplaying who God designed you to be. My course, Identity Powered Goal Setting, it gives you some insight as to what your calling may be. It gives you insight into who God designed you to be, and it inspires you to set goals from that position. And the reason why I decided to put that course together is because when people truly understand their real identity, then no one gets to give you an identity that's counter to who you are. No one is allowed to give you an identity that is counter to you achieving the goals that you see for yourself. And most importantly, no one is allowed to kind of talk to you like you're a 2-year-old and guide you by the hand down a road that you're not supposed to go. So this is very important to understand when it comes to getting beyond the fear of following your purpose. In order for you to follow your purpose, yes. Does it take courage? Yes. Do you have to be strong? Yes. Be strong and of good courage. And this is what God said to Joshua in the Bible. And so because he wasn't sure if he could follow through on his purpose, if he could carry out the purpose, if he could lead the people into the promised land. But God said, be strong and of good courage. So when you're strong and of good courage, in order to do that, you have to find a loving connection with every ounce of who you are. Okay, so again, this is not about you always doting on yourself and elevating yourself over other people, thinking that you're better than them and thinking they're less than you. That's not love, okay? That's self-esteem issue, okay? And a confidence issue. But it is about you understanding that, wow, you know what? For example, I'm 5'3". But it's about me understanding that, okay, I was made 5'3" for a reason, and I'm loving all 5'3" of me. And if you're 6'4" or 5, it is about you saying, you know what? Wow, I am tall and I am loving that. I can actually reach things on the top shelf. Okay, so now me, I can reach things on the bottom shelf and in the bottom cabinet quite easily. So whereas tall people don't like to always bend down, it bothers their knees. So see, we all serve a purpose when it comes to helping each other. But the point that I'm making is it is about you looking at yourself and embracing you, being excited about you, and making that decision that, you know what, I'm going to follow through on my purpose. And even if I make a mistake, even if things don't play out the way I want them to play out immediately, that does not mean I won't win. Because if I'm truly operating in my calling, if I'm using the right principles and I'm on point with these principles, then Yeah. And I'm accepting it because see, the other thing is in order for you to follow through on your purpose, you have to be open to receiving what's coming to help you achieve that purpose, accomplish that purpose. If you're not open to it, if you're shutting it down, and I've talked to people like that, they're so gifted, so talented, and I hear them talk about what they wish they could do. And they say things like, you know what, I'm really good at this, and I wish I could turn it into a business, or I wish I could help people with this. You don't have to wish. You already have the gift. You already have the talent, but they're not open to receiving how amazing they really are. So you have to really receive that about yourself. You have to really embrace every ounce of what God has given you that allows you to be this amazing person. You have an imagination. And yes, you do have courage that's already within you. But if you feed your fear, you don't know that you have courage, okay? Because you've smothered it with fear. If you watch the television shows that are so foul, man, I know I sound a little bit judgmental, but I'm not trying to do that. That's not why I'm mentioning that. It's a point of fact. They are foul. Okay. And they send a message that we're more like, I want to say lesser thinking animals. Okay. Because we compare ourselves to dogs, female dogs, male dogs. We bark like that kind of thing. I guess that makes people feel stronger. And here's the reality of it. You're already stronger, the strongest of the strong. You're made by God. You're made in his image. You're stronger than any animal, any creature ever to exist. You're smarter. But if you spend your time running away from it, being afraid of it, and or likening yourself to it, then you start to behave that way. And guess what that means? That means that you have a difficult time getting beyond the fear of following through on your purpose. So in order for you to follow your purpose, first of all, decide what it is. Secondly, identify with that part of you, what that is, what that looks like when it comes to you. Third, make a decision that, you know what, I'm going to take the first steps and decide what those first 3 steps are going to be. And then, of course, 4, take the steps. And if you have to take them over and over and over again, do it until it hits. And each time you want to affirm to yourself that this is who you are. I am amazing. I am love. And we are love. The Bible says that God is love. And it also tells us that God is in us. So that means we are love. So when you can fully recognize that in yourself, then before you know it, you're going to be following through on your purpose. You're going to be getting the results that come from that purpose. And it doesn't mean you're going to be like super rich. You could be, okay? It depends on what the purpose is. But it does mean that whatever comes with that, it will be enough to sustain you, okay? And take you to where you want to be in your life, okay? And that could, like I said, be lots of money. Okay. It could mean that you're supposed to make that money to help other people. I've shared that on other podcasts, but I think you guys understand what I'm sharing with you today. Okay. The more you start to embrace you, the more you start to see where you fit into the world, and the more you start to see where you don't fit, and the more courageous you become. And this allows you to make the best decisions that will allow you to fulfill your purpose and follow through on that purpose. Listen, you guys, we have so many things that are coming up this month. So you can check the show notes. And also, I want you to remember to do life with power, because you are built by design to win. It's how you're built. Be open to that. Receive that.